All right, welcome to the channel, everybody. We're here with Amanda B. Johnson from Dash. Thank you so much for being with us today. I know Dash just had a 6-year anniversary or happy birthday, which is really exciting. So please just take a minute to introduce yourself to our channel visitors, and then we can talk kind of about Dash and what makes it really special.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Chris. Yeah, so I'm Amanda B. Johnson. First heard of Bitcoin in 2013. And the tagline that was floating around at that time was "Be your own bank." And that was, I considered that to be a preposterous promise that really needed to be put to the test. And so that year, I decided to test it out by seeking a job that paid in crypto and then closing my bank accounts and trying that out. And so I started out writing at Bitcoin Magazine and then went on to write for Cointelegraph and Bitcoinist and eventually Bitcoin.com. And after a time in that writing space, I thought, I think that we could use like some video crypto reporting in the space as well. And so in 2015 or 16, I launched a crypto show called The Daily Decrypt, and we reported on all these different coins all of the time. And while doing that show, so I was reading like white papers, right? And like, because even new coins were, being invented and like rocketing into the top 10. And so it was like, oh my gosh, so many things to look into. And so in the course of preparing materials for the show, I came to sense that that there were like quite major differences in some ways between coins, right? Like some carbon copies, no question, but others, okay, no, we're talking about a different beast here. And I became particularly attracted to the differentness of Dash in particular. For me, the primary reasons were firstly governance, because this was around the time when the first, like, is Bitcoin going to really fork, like, started to be out there, right? And like the Bitcoin XT nodes, they had their day. And then the Bitcoin Unlimited, they were spinning up a bunch of nodes. And I was like, it was great for the show, right? Like stuff to talk about. But at the same time, I owned Bitcoin. I was nervous. I didn't like that there, was no way to get like a vote of all Bitcoin investors, according to their owned coins of like what they wanted to see. And so first thing that attracted me to Dash was the governance. And then over the years, other things started attracting me, like, oh, like privacy at the protocol level. Like, yeah, that seems sensible. Because I remember I had stressed for years about how to do Bitcoin hygiene. And like, I would read guides like, oh, do this and don't do that. And I'd be stressed about it. And then this ballooned into many other things and what we now have today in Dash is the cryptocurrency most suitable for payments.
Okay, good. So you said privacy at the protocol level. What does that mean as opposed to like with Bitcoin? Because everybody's interested in privacy. A big misnomer is that like there's, if you're using cryptocurrency, it's untraceable for those people who don't know about it. When it's on the blockchain, and so public addresses are, of course, traceable. So what is privacy on the protocol level?
So in a transparent blockchain like Bitcoin's or Dash's, because you can't erase details of payments, the alternative is to cast doubt upon the full history of a given coin, right? Because if we were to look at any address with a balance on it, on either of the chains, we could look back and see, where it came from before that, and then look back, see where that came from before that, and we see that eventually we have a coin or portion of a coin that has like a time-stamped history of its entire life ever since when it was mined. And in some respects, that can be very useful if we're talking about something where we want to track the provenance of a coin. Say we donate to a charity and we want to know how that charity spends money, or we pay taxes to a government. We want to know how that government spends money. And so there are total pluses to transparency. But then there are other use cases where that level of transparency is not only, I mean, it's uncomfortable to one because it can put one in very legitimate danger. If just anybody can know how much funding you have, if they can even have an idea of how much you may have like on your wallet, say you've just made a purchase, and if the merchant can like look at the balance of the address that you just bought coffee from, you know, I mean, it may be worth it to him to relieve you of your smartphone that day, and you know, so these kinds of things.
Right.
And so what does it mean when it's on the protocol level? Well, what it means is that with so many of these transparent cryptos, there are mixing services available, but they're offered by third parties who aren't necessarily affiliated with the network. And so the first risk there is that you just have to hope that they're online, but let's assume that they are. And if you're hoping that they're online, you have to hope that they are actually, that they have good intentions and that they're not a honeypot. Basically like tracking all of the sessions that they're mixing. And then thirdly, let's say they're not a honeypot. If they're not a honeypot, they should probably be charging money. Right. And then you have, you know, like unpredictable, how much is going to cost today. And hey, guess what? If they're not charging money, that's not a sustainable operation, right? That's what we call one of those volunteer positions that is fun while the times are feeling good and everyone's feeling fine. But if the pressure ever comes down, if the price ever comes down, if the electricity or hardware ever gets more expensive, that's when you're going to see options like that drop off. And so when it's on the protocol level, like in Dash, where, hey, the masternodes don't even get paid if they don't stay online and keep these services available, then you don't have to worry about the availability. And because the nodes are all staked 1,000 Dash each, you know that they have an incentive, a serious incentive, to be honest and not to be like logging things.
So that actually brings you to my next question when you were talking about the governance model. So you mentioned masternodes. For people who aren't familiar with Dash, a masternode is like a miner somewhat, but it's also staking, correct? Is it, or is there a separation between those two? Like, how do transactions get processed on the Dash blockchain?
Yeah, such a good question. And it's kind of like this sort of hybrid model in that our proof of work miners, they are the ones who generate the blocks. And yet, so much of the network's functionality depends on masternodes who are staked and only paid for service. So in a way, they're kind of almost like proof of stake, proof of service hybrid. And so like the base consensus mechanism, proof of work, but then like the functionality of everything else, and certainly the primary relay network, is like mixed proof of stake, proof of service.
Okay. So that's how the network stays active, and like you said, the incentive to their like, so Dash masternode operators make their money how?
Yeah, also a great question. So the Dash block reward is not paid out 100% to miners, as in most other coins. So instead, we pay for multiple things that we want to make sure are online and or available. So 45% of the block reward goes to the proof of work miners. 45% of the block reward goes to the proof of stake / proof of service masternode network. And then once a month, we are able to evaluate that remaining 10% that has not yet been created nor paid out to anyone at this point. And we, anyone who owns a full masternode or even owns shares of a masternode, right? They can collectively vote. They look at what we call like the treasury system. And that is that throughout the whole month, before the 10% super block is able to be paid out, for a fee of 5 Dash, anybody can put in a funding proposal to the network and to be paid out that any portion of that remaining 10%. At this time, it's like 5,700 Dash per month is in the treasury, right? And so that is how the teams that work persistently for Dash and Dash alone pay themselves, right? Yeah. They put in these proposals every month, all the stakeholders get a vote, and then on a month-by-month basis, various percentages of that 5,700 Dash is paid out. And so we've developed like long-standing teams who apply for this funding every month and have been receiving it consistently every month ever since the Treasury was created like 3 or 4 years ago. That was another thing that attracted me to a crypto with a Treasury system in it, because if the only people getting paid to develop the coin are people who the network is itself voting on, being like, yes, you, I like you, I want to hire you, here is X amount of Dash for you and your team who I like and vote for, to like roll out the next version of code, I thought, okay, so that's a pretty good solution.
Yeah, you said earlier that Dash is really good as a payment system. So what makes it better than like using Bitcoin or using Digibyte or using any other cryptocurrency as a method for payment? Or we'll go with the big elephant that now is, I think, having a lot of problems with their 12.5% taxation, BCH, right? Roger Ver's like, oh, it's Bitcoin Cash. It's got to be cash. BSV is the same thing. Why is Dash different or better for end-to-end user, like normal people with their phones and their wallets making payments to one another?
The answer is pretty much masternodes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually had conversations, personal private conversations with people who work on some of the coins that you just mentioned, Chris. And we've been talking about, they've actually asked me like, why do you want to stick with Dash? Like, why would you not just, what does my coin need to have basically for you to be like, okay, this is pretty much, because they've been like, we're working on the availability, increasing the confidence of zero confirmation transactions. And, we're working on having the privacy options, and we're working on, some method of being able to vote. And so there's no way that miners can ever provide an instantly non-double spendable payment. And so that's a huge problem if we're talking about something that we want to actually be used as money, in which people need to be able to pay each other, take the popsicle and be like, shlia, and have it be done. And so what masternodes are able to do that miners cannot do is, in Dash, we call them, they form quorums. And so we take our whole masternode network, and at any given time, we're tasking a percentage of them to listen for every broadcast that happens in every nanosecond of time, and to vote upon every transaction broadcast that they see. And if I think the threshold is 60%, if 60% or more of them vote on seeing a given transaction first, then they put a lock on that transaction, which says to the network as a whole, hey, any attempts at spending these coins in a way that's different from what we just locked is no good. Kick it out. And they're able to achieve that lock in about a second. And so anybody on the receiving end can know that that Dash is double spend proof basically the moment that they've received it. And the really groovy thing is, these locks don't just make a received payment double spend proof, they also mean that you can respend it yourself immediately after receiving it. So it would be just like, literally just like if I handed you $1, Chris, and then you handed your friend that same dollar.
Right, I could just spend it right as soon as I received it.
Yes, like we can totally do that on Dash. So that is always happening on the Dash network. These locks are always being made, right? But then it's like the wallet interfaces, like sometimes the wallet interface like detects instant send, or it'll be like, hey, the people who design the wallet will be like, hey, we know that everything on Dash network is instant send, hence we'll like credit your deposit immediately. Basically, all I'm getting at to the viewers is that if you like think that this sounds super cool and you're like, oh, well, let me, try what that chick said. So whether or not it shows up immediately as respendable in your wallet basically depends on like the wallet manufacturer and basically their opinion of the Dash network, as in whether they view it being worth supporting all of our features.
Right. So I can shed a little bit of light on that. In order for a wallet such as ours to actually implement instant sends, it means that we would actually have to run a master node on our network. from a wallet perspective, now I know Dash has its own wallet, which actually connects to masternodes, which is probably the better way if people are using Dash as money for like transactions with each other. They're probably better off actually using the actual Dash wallet because it is connected to a masternode instead of something like Exodus. I think that's the answer to why some wallets actually don't support all of the features, at least from discussions that I've heard. It's basically whether we run our own masternode on our network. So
Chris, you just
maybe in
gave
the
me the
future.
happiest segue.
Okay, go for it.
It's just so like, it's just what you just said is so like proof in the pudding, that what is in Dash's testnet right now is so needed. I don't know if you saw, but 2-3 weeks ago, Dash released its first version of Evolution, like so-called Evolution in testnet. And one of the things that's running in there is what's called the DAPI, the decentralized API. And I think it's the world's first decentralized API. And its whole purpose is to solve the problem that you just mentioned, Chris, which is freaking like, okay, so service providers, merchants, anybody, why on earth, and really how feasibly in the long run, are they going to be wanting to, I mean, download not even just like one coin's full blockchain, but like all the coins' full blockchains? Right. And like to stay up to date and to always be like hunting out, you know, the GitHub notification pages so they can be sure to like update on time.
It's too complicated. Normal people, I mean, when we want even addresses and private keys are too complicated for the average user. So anything that you're like, hey, even if you say the word blockchain, look here, if it's not something that can be done in a press of a button, it's going to be too much friction for people to even want to use, because it's not about literally how easy it is, but like for us as developers and as a provider of a piece of software, that it's about how people feel when they use it. Because if they like it, they're going to go back. If they don't like it, it's like, I mean, there's so many things like compound finance. I love compound finance, but there's like 8 steps, and the 8 steps is not that big a deal. I can figure it out. I've been in the space for a while, but the time invested to go, okay, I need to do this and I need to do this and I need to do this. It's just not for everybody. Right. So I'm happy to hear that you guys are developing some way to be able to take care of that problem, because not everybody is going to be able to run a masternode.
So what is also on testnet, like thank the heavens, is what we call Dash identities. And that is where any user will be able to, upon the creation of a Dash wallet, which will technically be a Dash DApp, right? That's something that, using the DAPI, one can create a DApp, right? So the application that talks to the Dash network, no need to run a masternode, no need to even run a full node. The DAPI just talks right to the Dash network. No need to download a node. And then the identities, the choosing of a name. So like, like Chris.DashWallet or like Amanda Loves Sunshine.DashWallet. These things will live on the Dash blockchain. And we have a decentralized DNS like running in testnet to always, to make sure that the payments sent to your username always land at a new address in your wallet, right? Not the same address, because that would be a privacy nightmare. And this, we think, is going to, drive like that last part home. So like the DAPI for developers, the identities, the reusable, human readable and memorizable usernames for end users. And yeah, we've been working on it a long time, Chris. It's been actually like 4 years now.
So I got 2 questions for you. We only got a couple more minutes here. One is, how do people get Dash? And then 2, I just wanted to say happy birthday to Dash, because it's 6 years old. And I just wanted to see if you could give a quick synopsis. You've already given some background on where you're going, but like, how the entire Dash community feels about achieving that milestone. So we'll talk about first onboarding people.
Sure. Well, I mean, of course, there's always the option to buy coins.
Hmm.
And Dash is on most major exchanges and
Hmm.
brokerages. So, really, anywhere that you buy crypto, Dash is going to be there, and on ATMs as well. I heard yesterday that there are like over 1,000 Dash supporting ATMs around the world. So, also that. Um, but then, I mean, what I think is better, is much better, especially if you think that blockchain based tokens have a real potential to be money in the future. I would just say that earning crypto
Hmm.
is the very best of all, because it changes your incentives in a way that it wouldn't be if you just bought, right?
Hmm.
Because and the reason I know is because I've done both. So like in the
Right.
past when I was just like buying crypto, I had a real hesitancy to spend it, because it's like, well, damn, I just bought it, like, why do I want to go and spend it? I
Right.
just want to have the amount that I want to have. And whereas if you are earning it, well, then you actually want to spend it, because if you don't spend your crypto directly, that means you have to take the time and the expense and the hassle of converting it into the dollars or the euros or the
Yeah.
yen or whatever to then spend. So it flippity flops your incentives. And once your incentives get flipped, your sense of like what crypto needs to be and where it needs to go and to be more and more money like each
Hmm.
day just gets like honed, like a spidey sense. Dash is like, and Bitcoin, from what I understand, like Dash and Bitcoin are like neck and neck down in Venezuela.
Interesting.
Yes, yes. And I mean, to my understanding, that's basically like more or less the worst fiat currency situation in the world.
Hmm.
So, of course, it's completely understandable that this would be happening down there. And so, what I'm super interested to see over the next 6 years is these places around the world, primarily Venezuela, if they become like crypto adopters first, which actually they are, if they
Hmm.
become crypto adopters first, like in 6 years, or hey, maybe a little farther out, maybe like 10 or 15, are they going to be like the nicest, richest places
Right.
in the world?
That's interesting to think about. So, if somebody wants to find out more about Dash, where are they going to go? Like, how is somebody who's seeing this video for the first time going to really find the meat of Dash and maybe get excited and become part of the ecosystem?
Sure. Well, it depends on how you want to learn to be involved. So, if you are looking to see the skeletal structure of how Dash operates, right? Like basically the code and documentation of the code and the network, you would go to docs.dash.org. If you wanted to see what we have going on in testnet right now and potentially download the DAPI for yourself and just start like playing around, because you can, and it's free and it's rad, you would go to dashplatform.readme.io.
Okay.
If you wanted just a general overview of the Dash ecosystem, like, oh my gosh, something we didn't even talk about, Chris, is like the innovative legal structures that Dash has around the world that like
Okay.
are these world first sort of segues between like the world of crypto and like the legacy jurisdictions. You would go to dashcrypto.org. And then, yeah, if you wanted to look at the wallets, you would go to dash.org.
Okay. Excellent. And for your YouTube channel, where would people go?
Yeah, I sometimes make video appearances as a co-host of a show called Tao and Amanda Live, and that's
Okay.
on a YouTube channel called Cash Alternative TV.
Okay. Good. I'll
Yeah.
put a link in and we'll see if we can get some of our visitors to visit your channel.
Groovy.
Okay. Amanda, thank you so much for taking your time and joining us and telling us all about the great stuff that's happening in Dash.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Good luck to
Okay.
the Exodus team.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Bye.